Welcome everyone to the September 2023 installment of Texas Leadership Network Mastermind. For those of you who haven't been with us in the past, welcome. We're glad to have you today. I would love for you guys to chat or use the chat window to connect with each other and network. And as I said before we started recording, if there are faces on here that you've seen at least 5 times and you haven't had a one-to-one with them, then you should schedule one. For sure. It means that you have something in common, right? At least one thing in common. You show up here every month or most months. We do run these masterminds once a month on the second Thursday of every month at lunchtime Central, which is 12 to 1 Central Time. You can find us at texasleadershipnetwork.com if you want to look at more of the coaches and the people that are representing Texas Leadership Network. So what is the mastermind group for? It's to utilize your peers as people who can help hold you accountable. They can mentor you. They may even be able to help you with a challenge. We love for people to be here every month. It makes a difference. When you know the people in the room, you can be more vulnerable and ask deeper questions or even get to that challenge a little bit faster. And it's also unique because most of us are at the same stage in our leadership or businesses. So we have something in common, which is why we're here. There are no dumb questions. There are no dumb answers. We're all going to respect each other. We're going to have some fun and everyone should participate. So don't pretend like you're going to hide in the corner because Chrystal is going to call on you. The benefits of being here, of course, sharing skills, networking, and accountability. So thank you all for being here. I'll show you that last slide once we get through our talk today, because we do have something special happening in October. It will be on the second Thursday, but it's a little earlier in the day, and we've got a guest speaker coming that some of you may know. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our facilitator for the day and newer coach to Texas, Chrystal Runge. Thank you so much for taking the reins today and leading our topic. It's all yours.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Raining, it's good.
Yes, I know. Thank goodness. It's not 110 degrees and we have some rain, so that is amazing. All right, well, so we've gathered here today to talk about feelings. Is everybody ready?
Look at Kristen. Kristen's like,
no. All right. Just kidding. We're not really going to talk a whole lot about our feelings, but we are going to talk about how our feelings can sometimes, mess with us and mess with our business. So we are here today to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart, called positive intelligence. So let me, okay, here we go. So this all comes from the book that is written by Shirzad Chamine called Positive Intelligence. So is there anyone here who has read this book? Anybody familiar with this work? I know Mike and Trisha are, but as for the rest of you guys, no. Okay, awesome. Well, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about positive intelligence, just because I have found it to really be extremely helpful for me and with the other coaches that I have had the pleasure of kind of going through this program with. You know, they have found it to be very helpful and transformative for them as well. So positive intelligence, what we're going to look at here is, how to identify and overcome self-sabotaging thought patterns, which are known as your saboteurs. We'll talk a little bit more about the various saboteurs that we may each have. Nurturing our sage, which is our inner voice of wisdom and positivity. And then just really examining, how easy it is to use this PQ operating system to, increase our emotional resilience, decision-making, leadership, and really allowing you to achieve your full potential, both personally and professionally. So to tell you guys a little bit about me, as Trisha mentioned, I am a newer coach to the Focal Point Network. I have spent about 18 years prior to this in financial services and corporate. So I have had my fair share of my brain beating me up plenty of times. But a little bit more about my story. My spiritual journey began in 2019 after my divorce. So I had a 21-year relationship with my ex-husband. We had 2 kids. And I felt like I just was living in survival mode for so long that I really didn't know who I was, or what made me happy, what I wanted out of life. So I really began at that point to go on a mission to try to figure that out. I looked at a lot of different personal development programs, read a lot of books, started doing a lot of meditating. And so what I've found is, for myself anyways, positive intelligence has really been the most effective and quickest program for me to be able to reach, a greater level of fulfillment and happiness for myself. And so my mission now is to help others do this work for themselves personally and professionally. So we'll jump in here. So I wanted to start with a question before we really talked about, what positive intelligence is. You guys may have heard of PQ before. I think that's kind of a popular term. You've got your EQ, your emotional quotient, you've got your PQ, your positive quotient. So you guys may have heard that term before. But I wanted to just start off with a question here before we jump in, a little dialogue, little conversation. But have you ever had a situation that you wish that you handled very differently once you were able to examine it with a calm and clear mind? Anybody have any examples that they might want to share on that?
I'll go.
No, we don't want to talk about feelings.
I know. Everyone's like, ew, it's all mushy and stuff. This is terrible, right? I have, let's see, I have an example of someone I might know. So I'm not going to tell a story about myself. Is that okay? You might know this gentleman who likes to drive his very nice car, which, by the way, he recently bought a Cadillac CTSV. And he drives like an old man. And so people cut him off all the time. Has anybody ever been in this situation? And you kind of act out when somebody cuts you off? Yeah, you might like wave at them with less than 5 fingers sometimes. But after you do that, and I've done it too. I'm just teasing. You guys all know I'm talking about Dennis, but it's not really him. It's all of us. I think we've all felt that. And you get you get into this red zone and you do things that maybe you didn't mean to, or you regret, right? I think that's the thing. That's the word that comes to mind for me, is this thing that I regret. Like, oh my gosh, if I had just taken a deep breath, or if I just had interrupted that red zone thought that I had, I could have seen that person had an emergency, or they had their flashers on because they were on the way to the hospital, or whatever their circumstance might be. And I think that we all have stories that play into that space. So I don't know if that helps start the conversation, because I'm sure I have examples that are not of Dennis.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think behind the wheel, I am probably one of the worst, but I'm learning tools now, so I'm better able to handle that. I would say for myself, especially over the past few years, just with stress of everything going on in my life, there have definitely been times that I have just snapped, whether it was to my kids or significant other or somebody that I worked with, and really didn't mean to do that, but I was in just such a state that I was just, and, so then after the fact, like you said, Trisha, you kind of think about it and you're like, man, I wish I could go back and do that differently. So that's all I really wanted to kind of open this up here with, is just I'm sure we've all had situations. Can we raise our hand if we've had a situation that we handled one way when we were a little upset, that we wish we could go back and do it all over again?
Well, I saw, Kristen, you came off of mute. Are you vulnerable enough to share something with us today?
Am I vulnerable? I'm perfect. I'm just saying, let's put that out there. I figure if you can't handle me, then we need to not be friends. So yeah, but no, I was gonna say actually, you tell a story about that, Trisha, but I believe it might have been a month ago or 2 months ago, Dennis shared a story, but you find out, I think it was partially true, probably partially not, but about a driving thing where somebody went kind of postal with somebody and realized that this person had, like, there was a bigger thing to it or something. So it was just kind of interesting about how we judge things by what we see. And, you know, I mean, we all do that. Like, look at social media, everybody's perfect, you know, and so no, I mean, there's probably more of mine were being a mom, a young mom, and those were my biggest ones, just because like little things, I never, as an adult, I don't say never. I usually try not to be mean, and the meanness stays in my head or stays between one-on-one. I don't ever want to hurt anybody's feelings because that's just not me. I'm a big old teddy bear. I know a lot of people probably don't see that, but I'll melt in a heartbeat. But so I really try to be nice. I mean, you know, may say some things, you know, when I've had a little to drink, but it's usually truth. I'm just saying. So yeah, I could like, okay, maybe not talk when you're drinking. Good. So anyways, all right, sorry. I could talk all day.
All right. Well, I don't want to beat this to death if nobody else really wants to share, so we can move on and we can start talking a little bit about positive intelligence if you guys are ready. All right. So with positive intelligence, what this is looking at is there are actually two parts of the, well, there are multiple parts of the brain, I'm sure, as you guys are aware, but the two parts of the brain that we are talking about with positive intelligence is one on the left side of the brain, it actually does reside on the left side of the brain, is your survival brain. So this is the home of your saboteurs, okay? So the master saboteur, this is the one that everyone has, is the judge. So the judge finds fault with yourself, with others, with situations and circumstances. And so much of our, you know, disappointment, guilt, shame, anger, anxiety, these are emotions that are actually triggered by the judge, okay? So then once the judge is triggered, then the judge actually triggers some of these other characters that are known as accomplice saboteurs. So some of the accomplice saboteurs, I didn't want to list them all. I think there are 10 total, if I recall, you know, but they're such as like the controller, the stickler, the hyper-rational, etc. So our saboteurs develop in childhood due to emotional or physical needs that we had that may not have been met with empathy or compassion, or maybe weren't met at all. So the more that you feed your saboteurs, the stronger that they get. So it's not really a surprise that by the time that we reach adulthood, that our saboteurs are actually quite strong, you know, and they actually create more stress in our life. They really don't serve us. So your mind might tell you, you know, oh, well, if you don't do this, you are lazy and you're not going to get this done. But in all reality, that may not be the truth. That may be a lie that your saboteurs are telling you, because then what happens if you want to do something and then you don't get it done, then you usually end up having guilt or shame about it. So it really just is kind of a vicious cycle, you know, where you feed the saboteurs and then, you know, maybe you let yourself down and then you have guilt and then that just keeps feeding them. So the saboteurs grow stronger and stronger with age. So the thing about the accomplice saboteurs, and the thing that I wanted to mention with this, and especially if anybody here has actually worked with a focal point coach, or if you've done a disc analysis, you may have seen this in your disc analysis. But you know, what it does is it actually takes some of your best attributes, but it takes it to such an extreme level that it becomes a detriment to yourself or to others around you. So for example, share a little bit about myself, okay? That way maybe other people might be willing to be a little bit more vulnerable. But for me, one of my top saboteurs is the stickler, okay? And I got to hang out with my mom this past weekend, so I know exactly where my stickler saboteur comes from. But the stickler has this, with that, as part of my DISC, my DISC assessment, what I saw is that, yes, I do have a very strong attention to detail, okay? Somebody makes a typo, I'm gonna pick it up like that. If something doesn't make sense, I'm gonna pick it up. Just anything that does not look exactly perfect, I'm probably gonna notice it, which I always thought was great. I'm like, man, I have such great attention to detail. I should be an editor, something like that, right? But the problem is once you are actually hijacked and you're in saboteur mode, that attention to detail really becomes such a level of perfectionism that you expect absolute perfectionism from yourself and from others. And that is where it becomes a detriment, So like, for example, with my children, I have a certain way that I want the bathroom cleaned, right? My 9 and 11-year-olds do not care how I want the bathroom cleaned, right? But they do it. So I should be appreciative of the fact that they do it, even though they may not do it exactly how I want it. But instead of me getting triggered, my saboteur, my accomplice, my stickler, instead of my stickler getting triggered, I need to have more compassion and empathy with them and say, guys, you did a really great job. Thank you. And then if there's some additional touch-up that needs to be done, I can do that myself, right? So that's a little bit about the saboteur, the survival brain. I want to talk a little bit about the PQ brain as well. So on the other side of things, on your PQ brain, so this actually does reside on the right side of your brain. It's in your mid-prefrontal cortex. So your PQ brain is the part of your brain that really, contains your empathy and your ability to innovate, your ability to create. So the PQ brain, as part of this work, is known as the sage. So you've got the saboteurs, and then you've got the sage. So the goal of this work is to reduce your saboteur brain, your survival brain, and increase your PQ brain, which is the home of the sage. So the sage perspective is that every problem can be converted into a gift and opportunity, right? And a lot of people probably have judges right now that are saying, whatever, if it's bad, it's bad. It can't be converted to a gift or opportunity, but guess what? It can. So your sage contains 5 superpowers, okay? So these 5 superpowers, if you are able to shut down your survival brain, or quiet it down anyways, and engage your PQ brain in that sage, then the powers you're going to find within the sage will be the ability to empathize, to explore, to innovate, to navigate, to activate. So these are very, very strong powers that are within the PQ brain, and things will actually come to you a lot easier. You won't have to stress as much or worry as much, as long as you believe in the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift and opportunity. So talking a little bit about, the PQ brain and the sage, I think the way that I like to think about this is think about young children, right? Young children before the world has really gotten to them, okay? What are they full of? They're full of curiosity. They're full of wonder. They want to explore, they just want to get their hands into everything, right? Because they don't know. They want to understand more and more of what the world is. So young children pretty much operate from the PQ brain or the sage, without the saboteur involvement. So as our saboteurs begin to emerge throughout childhood and adolescence, we begin to use our PQ brain less and less, which then causes atrophy in that part of the brain. So this goes to the whole neuroscience aspect of the positive intelligence program, or the PQ program. So, what this is your brain sends signals to react in one way or another. So as those saboteurs start to take over, your brain keeps sending your signals to your saboteurs, where with this program, we want your brain to start sending the signals to your PQ brain so that you are able to access the 5 sage superpowers. So what we're looking to do is actually increase the power of the PQ brain, and learn how to make that stronger. So our survival brain is most useful in an emergency situation, but it's not necessarily meant for use in everyday life. So
I had a question on that.
To the next here. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I think of this as far as the shooting world, because I'm a competition shooter and train people to be safer on, as far as situational awareness. So it's all about preparation. So is there, like, do you think that there's a way, and I'm not familiar with the book, so I'm asking because I don't know, on the right side of your brain, is there a way that you could practice and prepare so that when it does come to survival mode, that you get bounced back to the sage superpowers because you've practiced these things, like, I guess, like mindset and meditation and stuff like that? Or did I jump ahead, or were you going to cover that too?
Yes, I'm going to cover
all
that.
Of you,
Thank
all
you,
of you, be quiet.
Yes, so absolutely, that is absolutely what part of this program is actually teaching you to shift from saboteur to sage. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about next. But I wanted to sprinkle in some questions here and try to get some engagement before we talked about how it works. So I wanted you guys to understand what we're talking about: saboteur versus sage. How do we reduce our saboteurs and increase our sage? And that's what we'll be talking about next. But first, let's discuss this question. So when you're working from your survival brain, meaning you're stressed out, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're annoyed, you're feeling these emotions, right? How do you think that impacts your decision making and also relationships within your business?
No bueno. No bueno.
Guys, what about y'all? Brad, Greg, you guys?
You're short. You get short. You're stressed out. And usually when you're stressed, I find it, if I'm stressed out, that work is not as good as it normally should be when I'm not stressed out.
Yeah, lack of focus.
Yeah.
Quick decisions.
What about you, Karen?
Best.
Oh, sorry, Brad.
That's good.
Ditto.
Yeah. So you think that, so whenever you're stressed out or angry, like whenever you are at a point that you have to make a decision, what kind of decision do you think you're going to make? Do you think you're going to make a fully thought out decision, or are you just going to make a decision that's like, no, this is what I have to do right now, rather than actually taking some time to calm down and think about it, use that navigate and that explore power of the sage to really figure out what the best choice is going to be? Anybody had that experience? All right. Anyone else want to share anything here?
Kristen does. Just come
Okay,
off
go
of
ahead,
me.
Kristen.
Not saying everything because I know these people, except for Mike, don't talk a lot. No, this is great. But yeah, we just don't make good decisions. It's quick. We don't take the time to think about what we want to say, that we're saying it, correct, or, thinking of other people's feelings, and, might regret, like you said, regret what we say.
And I love what Greg said. Like, he doesn't do his best work when he's in this space, right? And I think that's for all of us. I don't think any of us can work or be our best when we're in this saboteur mode, right? Because it's all about negativity and we're just in survival mode I got to do the thing because the thing just came in, and oh my gosh, my email and my text messages. And how can you work or be your best when you're allowing all of those things to sabotage your brain, right? You can't. It's just impossible.
I think another thing that I would ask, and, you know, maybe direct it towards Greg, you know, when you have those days, you know, where you feel like, you know, nothing is going right. And so then you get stuck in that mindset, like what continues to happen?
I usually will stop and I'll block time and block out what is bothering me. And a lot of times it's a project that is coming up and due, and I need to stop the distractions from all other 100+ clients, focus on that one and get it done. And then it usually just lets, like, you know, okay, there's not anything wrong with this upcoming meeting. I'll get through it and do it. It's just the saboteurs working to make it more than what it actually ultimately is going to be.
I love that.
But some of it is getting the work done on the back end of it, and, you know, 6 different things coming at you. And I'll use the example of this week because taxes are due tomorrow for LLCs, and I had emails out the wazoo on Monday, and I had other things that were already scheduled to get done. And yes, it did stress me out, but that's the way it is. And they got answered as they got answered.
Yeah, I think what I liked about what you said, Greg, was that, you know, you have to sometimes just stop, right? So, you know, like, okay, I'm stressed out. I know I have to take the very first, you know, whatever the first thing is on my to-do list, that has to be done first. Everything else is going to have to wait, right? But what you're talking about there is intercepting. So, you know, moving to kind of what Kristen was asking earlier, you know, well, so how do we stop this and how do we switch? So that's what we'll talk about next. Does anyone else have anything else they want to share here? No. Okay. Okay, so this program is actually a mental fitness program. So, you know, similar to a physical fitness program. So if you're trying to get fit, can't go to the gym for one day and lift weights and be like, oh, look at me, I'm ripped. Not how it works, right? These are muscles that you have to continue to work on and you have to continue to build up. So, you know, as you do these exercises, this is where the neuroscience comes in, as I mentioned. So, you know, you're making those signals instead of wanting to go to the left side of the brain. You're saying, nope, stop. We're going to go to the right side of the brain instead. So that's how this creates new neural pathways. So there are 3 core muscles for the PQ mental fitness program. And so by exercising these 3 muscles, building these 3 muscles, that is going to allow you to have lasting positive change. Like, how many people have picked up a book and been like, oh man, this has some great information, and you put it into place for a month or 2, and then you just stop doing it? Has anybody had that experience? Yeah, I think we all have. So with this, if you actually do these exercises, build these muscles, then it will have more lasting change. So that's the thing that the author has found about the book, is like, he's actually seen with clients that he's worked with and coached using this system that they have been able to maintain this for a much longer period of time than, you know, some book that they may have picked up or some other tools that they had used. So the 3 muscles that you are building with this program, first of all, is your self-command muscle, okay? So like Greg said, you know, recognizing, okay, I'm stressed. What is that I need to focus on? let me take a break, you know, pull myself out of this, schedule time to make sure I get this done, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the first muscle that you're working on, is actually building your self-command muscle by recognizing and labeling your saboteur thoughts. And then from there, you move to what are called PQ reps, okay? I'm gonna talk more about the PQ reps as well. So upon the saboteur hijacking, so once you have that thought, that feeling, that emotion, whatever it may be, anger, guilt, shame, frustration, etc. So once you have that emotion and you can say, oh, you know, this is my judge messing with me, or this is my stickler messing with me, then from there you do PQ reps to activate the PQ brain. So what a PQ rep is, it is focused attention on one physical sensation, okay? So the more PQ reps that you do, the faster you will build the PQ muscles to be able to shift from saboteur to sage. So the more PQ reps you do, the faster you can build the muscles, the faster you'll be able to create that switch. So just to give you guys a little example of PQ reps, okay? So one of the ones that I use is just taking your fingers, and again, you want to focus your attention on rubbing the two fingers together with such attention that you feel the ridges of both of the fingers, okay? That's one. You can do that anywhere, right? You can do that while you're driving down the road. So if that driver in front of you, if you're sitting there saying, oh, you're such an idiot, well, guess what? That's probably your judge speaking. So you can do some PQ reps while you're in the car. You know, another one that I like to use is just this. It's just basically coming back to your body and connecting with your sensations, okay? And if you do that for 10 seconds, then, you know, with that focus and that attention for 10 seconds, then that is what is considered a PQ rep, okay? So the PQ brain muscles are the third muscle that you're building with, you know, the PQ reps there. So the PQ muscles are what allow you to access those sage superpowers, the 5 sage superpowers. So these are the muscles that that you would want to build with this program. Is first your intercept muscle, you know, being able to call out the saboteurs. Second, doing PQ reps to engage your PQ brain. And then the third would be actually building the muscles of the PQ brain to access the powers of the sage. Okay. Now, another note that I want to make here is that even with a program like this, your saboteurs will not ever go away. Okay. But you can take those saboteur voices from being like this to like this. Okay. So, and then especially once you are able to identify them and label them and say, oh, there you are, there's the judge, there's the stickler, you know, then you can very quickly be able to shift to the PQ brain or the sage perspective. Okay, so I know we already kind of talked a little bit about the PQ operating system, but this is actually what Shirzad refers to the system as, is the PQ operating system. So the steps involved in this, like I said, is if you are feeling negative emotions, stop. You are hijacked by a saboteur, okay? And the way that he explains this, so the author of the book, Shirzad, the way he explains this is if you think about, you know, if you put your hand on a hot stove, right? You're gonna get the sensation, ow, that's hot. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna immediately pull your hand back, right? Okay. Well, so if you are feeling, oh goodness. Okay, I don't know how to put it down, but whatever. I'm not trying to raise my hand. There it is. Okay, sorry. All right. So if you put your hand on that hot stove and you leave it there, what's gonna happen? You're causing more damage, right? So as soon as you know, okay, I'm angry, I am frustrated, if that feeling lasts for more than a second, then you know you've got saboteurs involved. Okay, that's the hot stove. Got to take your hand off the hot stove, because you're not going to do anything but damage if you continue to leave your hand on the hot stove, right? So then part 2 is to do the PQ rest to quiet the saboteurs and activate the sage. And then step 3 is going to be to assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift and opportunity, okay? Now, once you are able to really dig into the sage superpowers, you know, I think all of us will see that we have utilized these powers throughout our life. And just because you may have a strong saboteurs, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. You absolutely can be successful with your saboteurs, but it is going to come at the detriment of your mental health or physical health. You know, what do you hear about all the time? If you are living in constant stress, then you're more likely to have, you know, higher risk of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you know, cardiac disease, et cetera. So, so this is where the sage perspective allows you to really tap into these tools to help you solve or navigate your problems without just feeling this constant stress or anxiety all the time, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about the sage superpowers here. So again, the superpowers are empathize. You know, so with empathize, you're going to ask questions like, do I need more empathy with myself or others in this situation? So when you stop, you do those PQ reps and you start thinking about this, you know, like what of these superpowers can I utilize here? Do I need to have more empathy? You know, do I need to explore? Do I need to be more curious about this? What questions can I ask to really try to understand exactly what's going on here? You know, innovate, like, okay, well, this isn't working. What else could I create? What else could I do to make this work, right? Navigate. So the navigate superpower is really more about, you know, being guided by a deeper meaning or purpose, right? So, you know, if my future self were looking at this situation right now, you know, what would my future self do? How would my future self handle this situation? Because that goes back to more of your meaning and your purpose and your values as an individual, right? And then the final one is the activate power. And this is one that I find to be really cool. You guys may have heard about this. I know I've seen a speaker before and she was like, yeah, you know, before I go into any meeting, I do my superwoman pose, right? You know, so that activate power is really about, you know, like lining your spine and really getting in that stance that you are ready to jump into action, okay? And that's with calm, clear, laser focused action. So in the book, he likes to refer to this as the Jedi power, right? So, you know, whenever somebody is coming at you from 5 different sides, how do you like make sure that you are protected, you know, because if you don't go in with that focused action there, then, you know, in that situation, you could die, but probably not so much in real life. So, all right. So that is really it for how the PQ operating system works. So last question here. I hope everyone will want to participate on this one. But how do you think your reactions and decision-making would change if you were able to approach situations from the sage perspective and PQ brain versus the survival brain? Anybody?
Probably be more
Greg?
calmer. You'd probably be more calm and stuff.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the way that you approach your decisions? Do you think that might change?
The
You know, if
decision
you're
making
able
would be more clear and not, you know, rash decisions. Because sometimes those, you know, okay, I need to get this, you know, I need to make this decision, do it now, and it's the wrong decision, and you have to just come back and redo something, you know, 2 months later and make a change, and really should have thought things through when you're implementing something new or even hiring a new employee. You know, if it's to fill a body or is it to have the right person, you know, type situations.
Brad, Karen, you guys have any thoughts on, you know, where you might be able to utilize the sage perspective in your business to help you make some better choices or approach situations differently?
Thank you, Ms. Chrystal, for doing this presentation, because it's definitely got me thinking in a different way, because I'm the person that's on the sabotage side. So now I'll know to take a breath first and then think about the PQ side and try to do a little bit better and behave correctly. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Kristen, any other final thoughts? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brett.
So you could probably save me some time and going back and doing things right that I irrationally went through and did when I wasn't in the right mind.
Absolutely, Brad. I love that. You know, because what are you doing there? Like, if you are doing something, if you take some action while you're in survival mode, and then you are able to think about it a little bit more calmly, a little bit more rationally, you know, calm and clear, and then you have to go back and redo that all over again, then what was that? It was just a waste of energy, right?
So Kristen,
Mike, you got anything?
oh, sorry. I was just
Go
going to say, Kristen, I wanted to chat a minute about what you brought up earlier around being in survival mode, especially when you're teaching your class and you have a firearm in your hand, right? And going into survival mode. I think sometimes we have to allow that survival mode to happen, particularly if we're in a situation where we need to react quickly. But while training, I think one of the PQ reps that you could teach, Kristen, to keep people out of that survival mode while they're in training is to count their toes, right? So if you've got a firearm in your hand, you're not going to be able to do this or this, but you can count your toes. And that would give them about, 5 seconds. If they only counted 5 of their toes. If they counted all 10 of them, then maybe 10 seconds, but it might bring them back out of that holy crap, I'm about to pull the trigger mode, right? If they just take a deep breath and count their toes, then they could pull that sage out, that activator, right? Before they actually pull the trigger. I don't know if that helps at all. And it takes lots of practice to be able to recognize that, right?
Well, just like she was saying too, it's just like you said, repetitions. So that's what we have to do as far as my thing with training is when you practice something regularly, you practice it in a calm brain and all of these things that when if you ever do get in that situation, then you've got the muscle memory to teach you that like, this is a threat, this is not, because obviously you don't want to hurt somebody that you don't intend to. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to share on that note about the training and certainly in a survival situation. I think the more you weaken the saboteur brain and strengthen your PQ brain, and I think one of the goals is even in a dire situation or a situation that is very heightened, you will actually respond better and you'll be even more clear-headed. And so that's the goal. As you do PQs on a regular basis, you will move more into that to even respond to adversity in a calm manner. And I love the idea about the toes. That's a great one. I think another one might be even focusing on your breath, because that's going to be very centering. And that's another PQ, just being very cognizant of your breath and focused on it.
It's funny that you mentioned that about the breath, because a shooting coach that I worked with, one of the things is yawning, because when you yawn right before you compete, it basically kind of releases some of the right endorphins to where you're so it's just really odd. Yeah. And I'll tell you the funniest thing too, my husband, when he works out, he seriously has this big old yawn before every massive set that he does. I mean, he lifts a lot of weights. He's a big guy. But yeah, yawn. And I was like, it probably provides the oxygen that you need. It kind of releases other things and puts our system in the right place. So interesting, Chrystal. if you wouldn't mind, maybe even putting a link to the book, or Trisha, that would be something that we could digest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for those of you who always have a cup that's half full and not half empty, this the idea behind this program is still so beneficial. Like, I went into this program thinking, well, why in the world would I need this? Because my glass is refillable. So why would I need to do these things, right? And what I found is, because my pleaser is number one, there are some things that I'm doing to my own detriment by trying to please others. And that is what I've learned about myself between the pleaser and the controller. Holy cow, right? Not allowing others to just do the thing. And especially having patience. I didn't tell my story, but having patience with my mother. She's lived with us for almost 12 years. And I often don't have the patience to allow her to finish doing the things that she's doing. I'm like, no, just give me that. Well, just let me do it. And listening through the program and understanding what that controller actually does, practicing those PQ reps and pulling away from that controller and into one of the SAGE areas so that I can stop doing that, right? So it's important to relationships and our business and personal relationships. So, yeah. I will put the in there. Go ahead, Chrystal.
I was going to ask Trisha, like, how have you seen anything? Have you seen anything shift with your mom with regards to how things are going with her as you've been practicing this?
So I can't give you like her perspective, because it's not something that I've openly spoken to her about, Chrystal, but I can tell you that it makes me feel better to have the patience to allow her to do some of the things that I would normally just step in and say, just let me do that, because that's a lot of stress on me. And that's what I'm doing to myself, right? Is saying, oh, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to do all these things because you're not doing it my way. When instead I've been able to release that and say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to have empathy for the fact that she's going to get it done a little bit slower, not my way. And I'm going to say, thank you. Right. And that's it. It's work. It works and it's great. And I would say, you know, I don't think any of us are saying you guys need to go do this program. It's really about bringing the information back from our experience and sharing the data with you, right, on these types of programs and being in the right space, right, and making better decisions for ourselves as human beings as well as business owners.
Yeah, if I might, I wanted to really emphasize that, because the relationship part of this is super important. It's not just the self-control, self-mastery part. And the same thing when your cup's refillable or you're in a positive space, you think, why do I need this? But it makes you aware of some of the things you might not even be aware of. And it actually makes you a much more calm and more pleasant to be around. So that's personal and business relationships. It really allows you to not be, if it's the stickler or you're short with people, that just seems natural to you. You get an awareness of this and you can really focus on the relationship as more important than the doing it right or being a pleaser or whatever it is. And you put that relationship at the forefront, which is super valuable.
Yep. Definitely the empathy piece, I think, is a strong muscle to work on. Especially as, some of us who may be high D's or high C's, we come across as direct and we're just like, nope, this is what we need to do and we're going to do it now. But, sometimes taking a little step back and thinking about how that's coming across to others, that definitely can help to improve those relationships. So, all right. Well, I think that was it for what I had prepared for our conversation today. Thank you so much, guys, for your, enthusiasm, your participation. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chrystal. And what an amazing topic. I did put the link to the book inside the chat window if you guys are curious about that and taking a look at the work that Shirzad is doing. I want to let all of you know that next month in October, We've got Matthew Brown coming back. Does anybody remember the productivity ninja from last year? We brought him in, and yeah, he was pretty cool. So we're bringing him back. And he's really going to help us again, like level 2. We're going to level up on productivity, focus, and well-being with all of the distractions that we have. So the QR code will take you to the registration. It's free, of course, to you. We're really excited about having him back. So on October 12th, which is our regular Thursday, we're going to have this particular webinar at 10 o'clock. So note that there will be a 2-hour shift in the time that we're meeting on that day. We're going to start at 10 o'clock because Mr. Matthew is in the UK and it will be his evening. So we wanted to start a little bit earlier. We'd love for you guys to join. And if you have others that you would like to invite, please do that. It's free to anyone who wants to come and take advantage of getting a little more focus, productivity, and well-being around their lives, whether it's at home or even at work. And Matthew's a lot of fun too. All right. Thank you guys. You're all amazing. Yes. Oh, Kristen. Yes.
Do we have to scan this, or is it going to be the same usual link that you sent?
You will still get the email. Yes, the reminder will come out as it always does. Next Thursday is when the regular comes out, and this will be in there, and you can just click on the link from there and register. Karen?
I believe I've already pre-registered a few months back. Was it still good?
I think, Karen, because we just put this together in the last couple of weeks, so if you pre-registered, that would have been for the 12 o'clock meeting, which we're not having. We're going to at 12 o'clock and only do the 10 o'clock. So when you get the note this time, I'll encourage you, you'll get it next Thursday. I'll encourage you to just register for this particular one. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. You're very welcome. You guys have an amazing day. Happy Thursday. Chrystal, thank you very much for being our facilitator today. Mike, thanks for joining us. Greg, Brad, Karen, and Kristen, as always, great to see you guys.
Great to see you. Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chrystal.
Bye. Have a good one.